Live Chatter. I am your host of the week. We might get someone else on here to host because, it might be way more fun. Tara Henry, joined by Brady Vernon. Brady, let's get into it. What a weekend it was. Opening weekend. I know that if you were watching college softball, it was pretty exciting. Brady, opening thoughts on opening weekend.
It just really felt like, we did see kind of like a lot of upsets, and even like the games that weren't on streams anywhere were just like very competitive. I obviously the biggest thing that stood out upset wise was like Kentucky taking down Stanford on back-to-back days and one-run games. But it just a lot of that. I mean, we saw some teams really jump up. Like I think Texas made such a huge impression out in LA, and I think there's the other side of the story on that, which you kind of talked about on our website, and just UCLA's struggles on opening weekend and being run ruled in back-to-back games for the first time since 2015.
It's actually
Um,
2012. I got
20,
corrected. It's actually 2012. So first time since 2012.
that's still, but it's still abnormal for that program, and especially as that. And so it's just a lot of things. And opening weekends always, I mean, the preseason poll is always the hardest because even though, we have all these discussions with coaches and players coming in, like, when the lights turn on, it's just different. Like, we don't see the games. Like, I think both of we see like Missouri and Kentucky take these big jumps, and we had big question marks about them. But I mean, like Missouri to have the weekend it did, and like, taking down Utah, taking down Clemson, and then even like having a comeback rally against a really good pitcher in South Alabama and Olivia Lackey, like that was just very, very impressive. And like seeing what Lauren Creams can do as like an ace, because even though the struggles that the Tigers had last year, they did host back-to-back regionals in 21 and 22, and so it's a really good program. And I think we just kind of forgot about that way last year win.
I don't know that we forgot about it, but I think we got to see a Missouri Tigers team that, like you said, Brady, that looked like a team that was ready and raring to go heading into season. And Larissa Anderson having that squad ready to come out and win the NFCA D1 Leadoff Classic down in Clearwater. Very, very impressive. And the biggest, I think, leap in our poll, not the biggest, because they weren't even ranked in our poll. So let's put our poll up. And I think Brady and I are maybe going to move to the side so you can all see the poll and take a look at where we're at. So Oklahoma, no surprise, they're in the one spot. We'll be keeping Oklahoma up there until maybe next week. Who knows? A few scares over the weekend, Brady. And a Washington squad, a Duke squad that came out and had the Sooners by the ropes. What are your thoughts on OU and opening weekend in Puerto Vallarta?
I mean, I think they still played better than they did last year at this time. I mean, I know we had the struggles, and I unfortunately think we all learned to not ever doubt OU after that Baylor loss, because then they didn't lose another game. But it was really interesting. I think I'm putting a lot of stock into Kelly Maxwell. I think in that Washington game when Patty kept switching arms and she finished with Kelly Maxwell, I think that was kind of a big statement, like going the rest of the way, that I think, they have a ton of arms to go to, but when there's a jam or they really need some outs, like I'm not going to be surprised if Patty turns to Kelly. And like, I think that's the thing is like, she had quote unquote a down year for herself last year, but like 2 years ago, she was the best pitcher arguably in the nation rather than Georgina Korick. I mean, those two were incredible, but when you kind of add that and like, the bats might just be slow coming out the gate. And, based off what we've seen the last 2 years, it seems like Washington and Ruby Malin have somewhat of a plan, a very successful plan. They play them well in back-to-back years now. And so, but they found a way. I know there was some controversy with calls and such and umpiring, but, Washington had chances to like add to their lead, and like, they shut it down. They stopped that. And I know that we're getting some questions about like, does Texas have an argument for number one? I'm like, we tried this last year, guys, when UCLA went to one, and we saw what happened at the Mary Nutter. Like, unfortunately, I don't think that we should ever do such a thing. Like, it won't end well. Like, but I think I think we did see that, at times they are mortal. And like, I think we saw Washington take a really big jump in our poll. I think between the two of us, I don't think we had a lot of doubts about the offense and what it would look like, graduating such a senior heavy class. But I think they showed up, Brooklyn Carter with her speed is really good. I think Riley Holtorf was in our breakout stars like article because I think she showed really good stuff down the stretch last year. And so they're both batting 400. And then you have Brooke Nelson, a fifth year senior, who she's also in that. And so I I think Washington showed a lot against OU. That was really a tough game and stuff. But I am very impressed by what Kelly Maxwell is going to do there for the Sooners, and I'm just like kind of happy to see that. And they're always going to get every team's best, and not to play on the words, but it's everyone else's Super Bowl when they play OU. Like it just is. And so, but yeah, I mean, I was really impressed that like Duke didn't give in. I know that game was tough and them finding like hits and such, but I think both of them showed a lot this weekend, especially going forward and trying to get back to the World Series and Duke trying to make its first World Series.
And to add on to that, I think we've got to give props to Victoria Hayward, the new hitting coach up at Washington with the Huskies. She did an incredible job with San Diego State just a season ago and goes back to her alma mater. So there's a reason the Huskies are putting some runs on the board. But I want to get to this question from Seth. Hi, Seth. Thanks for joining us. Glad you're here. Is this the best Texas team in the Mike White era? Also, happy birthday. Thank you, Seth. It is my birthday, and it's hard for me to acknowledge it, but I am so happy that you all are here. I figured this was the best way to spend a birthday, is to talk about softball and hopefully give you all a little surprise at the end of this. But great question, Seth. Brady, is this the best Mike White or Texas team in the Mike White era?
It seems hard, like, like to judge that because, we've seen them make the finals and the final two, but
Yeah.
based on a pure talent standpoint, I mean it has to be up there with, like that 2017, 2018, like Oregon teams of just pure talent. Like, he has so many options like out of the bullpen that are reliable. And then you add Kevin, is it Kevon?
Come on.
Kevon as a freshman who very well
Yeah.
might be their best arm. And there's four others that you can trust. And then, the offense, like it probably hasn't even peaked yet, despite all the runs that they've scored. I mean, when you have so many young kids and like Leanne Good, she's like still hurt coming back from off-season surgery. She hasn't even been in the lineup, and like that's how deep they are. It didn't even matter. And it's like I think we're gonna see a lot of big things from Vivi Martinez, Reese Atwood, and then like even the freshman Katie Stewart's really stepped in early on, and it. I mean, Mia Scott's kind of like the forgotten one because she's the old junior of the squad.
Old.
But I think it is really incredible, and I know that both of us, when we talked in a roundtable, that Texas probably had the best shot at any chance of dethroning OU and such that we talk about, and the biggest part is like they're gonna have to play a lot, and possibly, and so that's like the biggest deterrent. But based on pure talent wise, it's hard to make an argument that it's not, and like everything that's there.
I agree with you, Brady, and I saw them with my own eyes this weekend. And let me tell you all, they are quite impressive. And after the game, Haley Dolcini and Chelsea Rex, Coach Singh's wife, were standing there. I was waiting to get back there to talk to the team, and they had heated vests on, which I try. And those of you that are making fun of California parka wearers, it was chilly there. Anyways, so they're sitting there, and to see Haley Dolcini there, and you talked about, is this maybe the best Texas team? I think it is, because as you mentioned, Brady, the amount of arms in that are available to Mike White, and there was just this calm about the Texas team. They were there to get their work done, and I mean, Reese Atwood, I can't say enough. I don't know if it's every time I'm there she just likes to hit home runs or have a walk off, but she did it again. So Reese Atwood putting the Longhorns on the board early in that Friday night matchup. But yeah, can't say enough about Mike White's squad and what they've been able to put together here thus far in opening week. But very, very impressed. All right, so we'll try and take some other questions. Are we, Braden? We can just kind of keep going there quickly. We'll talk a little bit about UCLA as well. But are we overlooking the first Texas UCLA game too much because it was 3-2 win with 2 runs for Texas being unearned? Brady, I'll let you go, and then I have a few thoughts on this.
It's always like the thing with like one-run games, and like I was kind of making this argument for like Stanford, and at the end of the like day, like they still lost. Like it's still like a W and like an L for one team or the other. And then I just like during a one-run game, I just like it. Sometimes it's just how the ball rolls, where it bounces, But to come back the next day and do the 16-0 thing, like that's just, especially as an away game, a true away game is just actually incredible. Like, and maybe we are looking into it too much, but I think it's just, UCLA did not respond well after it. Like, and that's like that was a huge thing too. Is like it's not even just like talking about the Texas game. I mean, the Oklahoma State game was almost just as bad. Like, and I think it's just like when you have those moments with this pitching staff where there's truly only three arms that they want to use and a walk on that kind of was added to the roster late, like you have to win those close games or you're getting it. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, we knew the pitching staff might take some time. Like at times, like even like the defense isn't the greatest, but like what is happening with the UCLA offense probably just is not an acceptable feature. And like, that is a experienced lineup. It has so much talent. Like, but even like their best outings was like San Diego, like they scored 7, but then they went quiet for multiple innings, or they had to rally to beat Maryland. And I just like it is very like troublesome that I think they're just putting a lot of pressure on themselves because all the other facets are kind of like going. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing when they go in the Clearwater is like, are we going to see the UCLA offense that we all expected, or is this going to continue to kind of tumble down a really weird, bad path that we've never really seen?
Yeah, and it is uncharted territory for the Bruins. I was there in person, and it was tough to watch. I think that was the hard part because we're just not used to it. But there's a lot of things at play here, and wrote about it on the site over on softballamerica.com. But Janelle Mionio goes down in center field. That starts to shift the defense, right? Then Alexis Ramirez goes down in right field. I know that's later, but that defense starts shifting around, and then people are playing out of place, and you can tell. And a lot of mistakes were made. And there was a lot of errors in terms of what the Bruins are used to. But you also have to remember something, Brady. That defense is not used to playing a ton of defense when you had almost 400 strikeouts just a season ago with Megan Faremo and Brooke Yanez in the circle, right? So there's a
Well,
lot of new happening. And, I think I want to be completely transparent here. I still had UCLA in my top 25 for me personally as a voter. Not everybody agreed with me, and that's not
y-
a
you were the only
bias.
one.
Yeah. And that's okay. But also, when you have a lineup like that with that much talent uh, on offense, bats are cold right now, but bats get hot really, really quick. And I want to remind everybody hitting is actually quite hard. And the arms that the Bruins faced in opening weekend, those aren't just your average arms. Now, yes, is there a concern against Maryland and San Diego? Yes, of course. But I do truly believe that this is going to pay dividends later on in the season. Because let me tell you, as a coach, I'd rather be 2-3 in February than be 2-Q in May. Now that did happen a season ago. Are we going to see that happen again? I don't know, but I'm confident that things will shake out, and this is a tough schedule. You look at it for the Bruins, and it doesn't get any easier. So we'll find out a little bit more of what that Bruins squad is made of. But thank you for that question, Braden. Let's see here. Do we have any other questions? If you have any questions, please on it over to the chat, and we'll try and get to them as they come through. So that's Texas in the number 2 spot. I'm going to put this graphic back up for those of you that just jumped back on and joined us. Then we've got Tennessee, Georgia, Duke, Clemson, Florida State, Washington, Stanford, and Oklahoma State. That's the top 10 in the Softball America first week one poll. Brady, let's take some questions from the audience here. Let's see. Stanford's offense. Hi, Fang. And thank you for the happy birthday message. Appreciate you. Love to see you on here every week with us. Brady, Stanford's offense.
Well, I made a lot of comments over the weekend. At one point, there was not a single hitter that had an average over 250. And Tara kept telling me, like, hitting is hard, which I understand. It's just, I don't know. I guess I was just like, I just wish that it was better. But I think this is the hidden thing of this weekend with Stanford. And, just I know it was kind of somewhat of a disappointing weekend, but um, Stanford doesn't, Stanford cannot make defensive miscues. They're not good enough offensively to do so. And so when you make 5 errors between those two losses in Kentucky, both games they lost by 1 run, that is far more concerning to me than the offense. We knew what the offense was going to be. There are a lot of young bats. I, I I know there's probably people concerned with like Taryn Kern's average and whatnot, and it's a transition for her. It's a new system. If you go look at her numbers last year for the first 2 weekends, she did not have very good numbers either. Doesn't take long to get hot, but like they have a lot of people. They did graduate Emily Young and Taylor Ginselsberger, who played shortstop and center field for them. It's very big positions. There's people in new spots. Like they're just not. They cannot afford to give up unearned runs, and then that's why you have Kennedy throwing 14 strikeouts, 3 hits, and she still gets a loss. And we should also praise some of Kentucky. They had a really good weekend in the circle, which is probably their biggest question mark. And I think Stephanie Schoonover needs her flowers too. I mean, before she got hurt last year, she was pitching just as well as anyone else. And so seeing her back healthy, and then I think the biggest surprise has just been the Jaden Vickers has come in and done a really good job. And so for Kentucky to have their weekend too, that's pretty impressive, especially when like Aaron Koffel is not hitting home run after home run after home run. And so that's a big thing as well.
And our good friend Amanda Scarborough sent this over earlier this morning. The SEC went 53, 5, and 1 on opening weekend. 53, 5, and 1. The SEC on opening weekend. So, again, does it just mean more, Brady? I know we say it a lot, and our friends are going to have the scoop on it just means more this week, and Gray and Tom will get you covered on the SEC. But that's a pretty big number on opening weekend. So big reason that we've got loads of SEC teams in the top 25. Any questions? If you guys have any questions, head on over to YouTube and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out as well. Any updates on the Jordy Ball injury? Any updates on the Jordy Ball injury? I don't have any updates on my end. Brady, have you heard of anything on your end?
It was just Ravel saying it was her plant knee, but there hasn't been, and that she fielded ground balls in warm-ups beforehand. But I mean, it's always a tricky thing. I mean, we didn't get a real clarification on Montana Fout's knee injury until after the year, and obviously it was a lot worse than that, which was bled on. So that's about it. I guess we'll see, especially how long it takes. I know that we had a question though about like Stanford and UCLA's rankings and like why.
Let me see. Oh, here we go. Question from Dexter. Hi, Dexter. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you being here. Question is, why is Stanford so high, yet UCLA dropped out? Brady, I'm going to go to you first.
My thoughts and opinion on this is, I don't think Stanford was just like, they just weren't like beat crazy. Like I was saying, they had 2-1 lost games. A lot of it became to their defense, which I think that it's very unusual for them. That's not something that they're going to do. And I understand they're going to win a lot of low scoring games. That's just their MO. And they also have this person, her name is Nigel Kennedy. She's going to win a lot of games for them. And it's like I don't want to get too caught up into the weekend. And honestly, I know UCLA dropped out. I just there needs to be life there. And like there was no sense of it through multiple days. There was coaching miscues. If you put UCLA against anyone on this list, I don't know how it goes right now. Like, and that's the thing. And it's not that, you know, maybe Stanford is like too on that idea in the preseason stuff, but like preseason, I knew how you or Stanford was going to win games, and like I would accepting that like they might lose a one-run game here or there, but I saw a lot of good too. You know, Stanford beat San Diego State and found a way in the offense. Like there was like Taryn Kern had her moment. Kalen Koch, who's coming from injury, and like San Diego State's a really good team, and like they also like beat a Minnesota team, and Reagan Krause shut down a really good Minnesota offense. You know, there was a lot of positives to that. Uh, UCLA was very close to losing the two games that they won. I mean, San Diego almost rallied to beat UCLA, and then it they fell behind really quickly against Maryland. And it's just I see a lot of ways where like Stanford can win a lot of games, and like I think Reagan Krause is really good, and a lot of people forget about that. But when we have so many question marks in that circle right now for UCLA, like you know, I think like we wanted to see more from Caitlin Terry and Jada Slope, and I know both of them had very interesting falls, respective, like health wise and whatnot. But I just that's the biggest thing is like I know how Stanford's going to win games, and like I tried seeing how they lost the game, and maybe that changes in Clearwater. But that's my kind of thoughts and opinions on that.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Andrew King, you are funny from Braden. I just clicked on the wrong one. But Ashley, hey Ashley Burkhart, shocked Indiana is above Northwestern. I see that changing soon. Brady, thoughts on that comment? Did you take an eye at Northwestern and what they were doing down in Arizona?
So, unfortunately, it was not possible for me to get to Tempe this weekend because of a wedding and such. And I was watching Tennessee Baylor on my phone at the table, and might have got yelled at a little bit, but it's okay. Um, my biggest thing was Northwestern is like I kind of just want to see it. I know that they had, and for me, I was really excited to see Ashley Miller, and she had a phenomenal performance against ASU and such. But they also lost to Boise State, and I don't think there was the greatest field at the Kajikawa. It's not what it once was. Um, and so I think, and I was really impressed. You know, Indiana could have came in this year and be like, oh no, we lost like the Big Ten Player of the Year. Like, what is it going to be like? Absolutely not. They kind of took it to Oregon that first game. The offense was like, Brandon Copeland's like, I'm still here. I can do it both ways. You know, they still have like Taylor Minnick, who's a really great outfielder. Like, and they had Clemson on their heels too. And like, there was some Valerie Cagle heroics in that too. And so that just really, really impressed me. And so I'm still waiting to see from Northwestern, especially like their offense and who steps into that after graduating like such a tremendous senior class. But I just knew that there's a lot more returning to Indiana, so that's kind of where I am. But you know, if Ashley Miller is going to pitch like she did in Tempe, though, I think that's going to go really far because you know that was a kid who did not get a lot of attention at Michigan State, especially 2 years ago when she was absolutely dealing like day in and day out. So that'll be really fun to see.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you, Ashley. Now we're going to get into the list. We're going to move along here. LSU at 11, Arkansas at 12, Missouri at 13. We'll get into that in a second. Utah 14, Bama at 15. Good weekend for Bama. Baylor at 16, Virginia Tech at 17, Kentucky at 18, Texas A&M 19, and Oregon at 20. Brady, thoughts on that list and questions on 11 through 20 for our Softball America family?
I know that some people are still kind of low in Arkansas. I know I'm very high on them. It's mostly just like the lineup. I know the loss to Penn State was somewhat disappointing, but it was an extra inning loss, and I don't think there's going to be many days where they leave 9 runners on base with that lineup, but it happens. I think there was actually a lot of good into it. I think they saw some good innings from their arms. I think Robin and Heron had a lot of good to show. But yeah, we can also kind of jump into like Alabama. I mean, uh, what Caleb Beaver did, I shouldn't be shocked, but she was so good at Central Arkansas last year, and then just the defense as a whole, like I think they're gonna win a lot of games, and I think just finding a unity together, and I think that you really saw that last year in the postseason when Montana got hurt. I think everyone was like, "Hey, we gotta kind of step up," and I think we're gonna kind of see that a little bit more this year, and not like so reliant on like, oh, can Montana go save us today or whatnot. And I think that's kind of like a fun thing to see how that team grows and just how they can, how the offense can come like one day, like the pitching, like if it's down one day, how the defense can come up with those big plays. And so I think that's really kind of cool to see. And obviously, Missouri had the weekend of any other team, and just I Jenna Laird and Donald, like the way that they have star power, like that's gonna carry them so far. But if like Lauren Krings is gonna pitch like this all year long, like she's gonna put her name into that SEC Pitch of the Year conversation because that was very impressive. And like we've seen the highs with her, it's just kind of getting that consistency.
And when you talk about Bama, we're actually seeing an entire staff. And I was having a conversation with Emily Pitek about you know when you take a look at Montana Fouts and what she was able to do at Alabama when she went down a season ago, that team really rallied around one another, and I think we're seeing that same squad bring that into this year. And truly believe that Caleb Rowe has injected a sense of, um, you know, excitement in that program and a little bit more feistiness. Like I think Bama's got something about him this year. The Mudita is strong with the Crimson Tide and really fun to watch. And you know me, Brady, I love some good outfield play and the performances this past weekend. Uh, not only with the Johnson sisters, but at Pruitt and White is out, and she's not even out to injury. So that outfield has its own identity. And I can't remember the last time where we were talking about an entire outfield as a whole having an identity, because I think we're always focused on big hitters, a great shortstop, a great third, but very, very fun to watch this opening weekend. And with a true staff, Bama's going to be tough in the SEC, in my opinion. All righty. Anything else here? What happened? Here we go. Quick one. I know we've got to run here. We got an announcement at the end. What happened in the Virginia Tech Auburn game? Why couldn't they come back the next morning and finish that?
I unfortunately do not have a clear answer to that. But I know that there's 800,000 things that goes into these preseason tournaments. I mean, last year, like the Kajukawa was counted pretty late into the process because with the Super Bowl and the Waste Management being at the same weekend, there wasn't hotel rooms for everyone, and so all these things have to be discussed. I know some people have opinions about why Auburn didn't finish that game, and so be it. But I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a bunch of things. They didn't play the Illinois game either, and rain is just taking games out early in the season like it typically does.
Well, that's it for 11 through 20. We're going to just move along here. South Carolina at 21, Florida at 22, Louisiana at 23. Wild weekend in Louisiana. Indiana at 24, and Auburn rounding out the top 25. That's the Softball America top 25. Any questions on that list, Brady? I know we've touched on a few of these, but we'll talk about Florida and the pitching staff, which was a big question mark for us heading into preseason. First perfect game by a freshman in program history as well for the Gators. Thoughts on Florida? I know you and I differ a little bit here, but let's hear your thoughts on the Florida Gators.
Um, you know, and as you say, Olivia Miller threw that perfect game, and to be honest, she's not even the one of the two highly touted ones, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Keegan Ralph, I tweeted this out, but even in their loss to Michigan, I mean, he allowed one hit in 10 innings, and it was in the first inning. So for nine straight innings, she was throwing a no hitter, and they ended up losing 1-0, which is crazy. But that if that offense is going to catch fire, I mean, they're too good. I mean, a lineup with Falby, Otis, Wallace, and then Eckerson, and then there's a bunch more, and even like Ava Brown was getting home runs. They're gonna get their runs eventually. Some days it's just not great. Um, but if they're gonna pitch this well, then they're gonna be really strong, and that's gonna be interesting. And obviously, we need to get into like SEC play and see how that goes. That I always feel like the SEC is just so tough on freshmen. And so, but I mean, there's a lot of good things like from Florida. I know they didn't have like the best weekend, or like didn't have ranked matchup after ranked matchup, but I think there's a lot to like there, and especially I know Tim Walton's kind of worried about the staff and how they looked in the fall, but as kind of Kenny Gayaski said about Caroline Wang, sometimes these kids are just gamers and they're not always showing all of it in practice.
Well, that's it for the top 25. I think we're.
Oh, I don't know where she went.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me, Brady?
Yes.
All right. I was done with it. I just wanted to end and was just going to let you close the show. But that's it for the top 25. And because it is my birthday, I asked if we could potentially release our 2024 rankings. And Brady, did I ask Brady if we could release these?
You said the top 5.
Oh, okay. So top 5. So Brady, can you release the top 5? Do you have that list in front of you? The list will be available tomorrow on the website, the full list. But Brady has the top 5.
Yes. So our partner Jen McIntyre is kind of leading this group, and these are all players we've seen in person, and this is going to be our 2024 recruiting rankings. We're going to kind of really get more into this and that part of softball. But we're going to just kind of lead off the top 5 pitchers. The position players are a different list, but we have Addison Fisher, who's a UCLA commit. She's number 1 on the list. And then we have Jaden Hefner. She's going to LSU. And then we have Audrey Lowry, who is an Oklahoma commit. So we know how that probably goes. Then, wow, I tried practicing this one before. So sorry. I'm not going to be able to say it too. It's like Zoe Pirajowsko. We'll go with that. Firecracks Rico. Stanford commit. And then Cambry Salmon from California Athletics Mercado, and she's a Texas commit. But all of this will be live on the website. We're going to really kind of get back into this. I know it's a big thing. We really want to. It's all about softball, and I know like our focus is D1, and we're going to expand on that. And a lot of this is because this whole opportunity came on very quickly right before season. And no, we're not doing 1,000 things at once or anything, but it's just we're all really happy to be here and like want to set a foundation for what softball deserves coverage wise. And so that's really a big portion of it.
So we'll be able to honor those athletes, and it'll be up on the site tomorrow morning at the latest. So we'll have our 2024s up there, and we'll get in contact with you because we've got a little special something for you. Our first list of our recruiting rankings will be released, and we want to celebrate you, those of you that have made that list. And want to appreciate and send love out to all of you in our Softball America family. It's just been a great, incredible start to the season. I couldn't ask for a better squad, a better team to be alongside. Brady, appreciate you. Hope you
We
all.
have one more thing.
Oh, one more thing. Oh, we've got one more thing. Brady,
Yes.
great. Go on.
We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers over here at YouTube. And so, if everyone who is watching this or has softball friends, if you could please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we are going to have a giveaway. We would like just to pick someone who comments on this video later on after it publishes on our YouTube channel once we get there. And so we'll select one winner, and that winner will be able to pick a jersey, as you know, like the jersey T-shirts from their favorite NIL collective. So, if you want Tiara Jennings shirt, Valerie Cagle shirt, if you win, we'll get you that shirt. If you help us get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So hopefully that's a fun thing that we'll continue to give back to our softball family.
Thanks, Braden. So Braden has liked and subscribed, and he's commented. So he's already entered in for the contest. So that's it for Chatter, our top 25. Brady Vernon, Sarah Henry, Softball America. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the Softball America family. We can't do this without you. And we'll see you here again next week. Maybe we'll get a little bit of shakeup in week 2 of Division I softball. Thank you all so much.